Hi, y'all. This is Eve Mayer. I'm with fastinglane.com. I get to say y'all because I'm joining you live from Carrollton, Texas, which is by Dallas. And the fabulous Robin Switzer invited me to talk today about fasting. So I think fasting is something I really thought was completely ridiculous as little as 3 years ago. And I remember I had a lot of friends who were from all over the world. Maybe they were Muslim, maybe they were Buddhist, maybe they were a Yankee and actually used fasting in whatever religion they had. And I remember hearing about it and thinking, gosh, like fasting sounds really unhealthy. And I respect their religion, but wow, that just sounds unhealthy. And I'd always be concerned about these people. I'm a girl from South Louisiana originally who really used food to celebrate, to grieve, to process emotions, and to have fun. That's just what we did. And so when I heard about fasting, it was against everything I'd ever really understood about my life and about my health. And so you may look at me, I'm a 46-year-old woman and think, you know, what does this person know about fasting? Well, I think that I'm kind of a pro at it, mostly because I failed so much at every other method of managing my weight or improving my health. So for 24 years, my entire adult life, basically, I was a pro at having gained weight, peaking at 300 pounds, and really wanting to stop that. Like I just couldn't figure this out. Here I am, a pretty nice person, kind of funny, adorable, obviously, right? And I have a great life, a daughter, a mom and dad who love me, friends. I'm successful. I know how to do things. I run companies. I know how to make money. I know how to get up and keep fighting no matter what affects me in my life. But 300 pounds at 5'6" was miserable and uncomfortable and unhealthy. And I just couldn't figure out why I could overcome all these issues in life, but I couldn't overcome health. And so like anything else, I set goals. Do you set goals? Do you set goals and have them written on your phone? Because if you ask me what my goals were for 2020, I have them on my phone. And even with everything that has happened in 2020, which I think many of us would just like to fully cancel, I've been able to achieve, I think I'm at 7 now, 7 out of 10. I usually try to set 10 goals. That way I don't have to figure out the math. So 7 out of 10 right now is where I'm at. That's pretty good for 2020 because it has gut punched many of us. And I did the same thing with weight. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to get off my pre-diabetes medicine. I'm going to have a baby. I'm going to get healthy enough to carry a baby. I'm going to fit into a size 18 and not a 26. All these goals that in other parts of my life led to success or led to achieving what I deeply wanted. But for some reason, I could never achieve or would very briefly achieve weight loss. I just couldn't figure it out. So I don't know if you're like me, but I spent a lot of my life thinking, just something's wrong with me, right? Like just something is broken in me. Maybe it's my mind, maybe it's my body, and I should probably keep it a secret. I should probably like not let people know that I feel imperfect or broken or unfixable. And so I think I spent a lot of my adult life kind of hiding those feelings. I'd always talk about mental health because I'm a big believer in that. And so I engaged in a lot of therapy, about my life in general, but also about my weight. I hired fitness trainers they were fantastic. And I went to the workouts. I did specialized diets, calorie counting, probably starting at like 13 or 14, maybe thinking about it when I was 8. And none of it worked. I was always hungry. I was always in the back of my mind, sitting at these important meetings or having a great life experience that was like really pivotal and important, and thinking about a hamburger or thinking about ice cream. And I was embarrassed about it. I'm just curious, like, have you ever done that? Have you been somewhere, like on a date or at your kids' play, or I don't know, somewhere important in the middle of a meeting, and you're just thinking about food? I really struggled with that all the time, and it was embarrassing to admit, and I tried to work through it. So at some point I went, I don't know how many years it's been now, maybe 8 years ago, I went to binge eating rehab. When you tell people you went to rehab, first of all, I get the image of like something kind of glamorous, honestly. Like maybe I was on a lot of drugs and I was like a celebrity that went to one of those spa rehabs. This was not like that, unfortunately. That sounds way better as far as the accommodations. But this was a rehab where you just went during the day. There are some that they have where you can check in, but I would have had to leave my daughter, who was very little. So I went to one that was like a full-time binge eating rehab. And I think some of us who have eating disorders or addictions to food have to work through, very honestly, a lot. It's like an addiction to any other substance, drugs or alcohol or smoking or anything work, but you still have to eat, right? You can't be like, I'm never going to eat again. That's not going to work out. So you have to really go and understand the issues in your head, work through them. And for me, what I found out was a couple of interesting things. Sometimes I hear people say that fasting is not a tool that should be used by someone who has ever had disordered eating. I've had disordered eating, and I'm going to say that fasting was a key way for me to become healthier in the way I eat. And much like our bodies, our minds are unique. We are all unique. I cannot give you the exact solution that will answer all of your health and mind questions today. You have to decide for yourself. So we say the obligatory talk to your doctor, but are you also taking care of your mental health? Are you talking to a therapist? Are you talking to somebody you trust who can be objective about your health and your wellness? So when I did that, I learned that I used food a lot to process my feelings. I had a habit of eating so I could disconnect emotionally. I tried to study Buddhism and study meditation. I was really terrible at it. I tried it for years. But with food, I was able to eat until a point of binging where I would no longer feel my emotions. And I think for those reasons, there was a lot of things in my life I didn't do as well as I could have. I would say I was in a previous marriage that was really not the right fit. And I maybe would have realized those things and been able to rectify those things earlier had I not been using food to disconnect. So I went through that, and I think that helped me a lot. But as I went on, I still, even after going through that rehab and that therapy and understanding more about myself emotionally and letting myself feel pain or letting myself feel grief or anger and process it and deal with it, I still felt hungry all the time. And so it kind of made sense to me that maybe it just wasn't my mind that was broken. Something was physically wrong with my body. Have you felt that way? Have you felt like people don't feel hungry the way I feel hungry? People don't feel frustrated the way I feel frustrated. I feel it more, right? It's interesting how we all want to think we're so special in not so fun ways. I think maybe I wanted to believe that, because then it would give me the answer of why I couldn't lose the weight and I couldn't get healthy. I was on 6 daily medications. I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. Doctors were really worried at 300 pounds that I wanted to get pregnant because that wouldn't be a healthy weight for me to be pregnant at. I was pre-diabetic. I was on glucophage or metformin, and all these things had to use, fertility treatment to have my daughter. So I decided I was gonna lose some weight to make that a more healthy journey. I had 3 bariatric surgeries, and I think people really are astonished. Like 3, it seems like maybe you'd stop at 1, perhaps 2, right? I get that. It sounds kind of ridiculous if you think about it. But I think the reason that I'm so good at talking about this is because probably the way you failed, if you failed at attempts at your health, I did even worse. So you can really look up to me in that way. And so I had lap band, and then I had lap band again because it stopped working. And for some reason, I really believe in the procedure because I did lose some weight with it. But for me, it was a very uncomfortable device to have in my body. I couldn't get the right fill level. It's a band that you place around your stomach. It's reversible. And I couldn't get the right fill level that would make me full. I would often get sick and throw food up. So there's a lot of issues that people have with lap band, and you'll see that now it's not done as often. I've talked to a lot of people who wish they hadn't had it, or when looking at it shows something else. It did help me lose some weight, let me be clear, but I do not think it was worth the complications I had. And I had to have it twice, and I still was not happy with it. So years later, I had gastric sleeve, and that's when they permanently reduce the size of your stomach. It's different from gastric bypass, which is, if you think about it, it's kind of like half of gastric bypass, which is they reduce the size of your stomach, and they also shorten the ability to consume through your intestines. So to take all the nutrients in, they reduce the amount of intestines. I don't have that part. So gastric sleeve is just making your stomach smaller. And every time I had these surgeries, my dream was I wouldn't feel hungry. And what's interesting about bariatric surgery for me, and a lot, I'd say hundreds of people I've spoken with about this, is at first, it happens. You finish the surgery, you heal up, and you're not that hungry. Some of that has to do with some of the nerves at the top of the stomach, a lot of people believe, that affect hunger. However, in my experience and many people I spoke with, within 3 months of each of the surgeries, 3 times, the hunger returned. The physical part of the hunger returned. And I always had this really tough issue distinguishing between the physical and the mental hunger. I can't really tell which one is which. So imagine you have these surgeries, you use insurance, or you pay thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. You go through the pain, you think it's gonna fix your broken body, and it does. And then 3 months later, you feel that hunger again, knocking in your head, talking to you, urging you to eat. It was heartbreaking, but I kept going. So I'll talk a little bit about skin. People ask me about that because of extreme weight loss and skin, and how fasting or keto and low carb affects that. I used to weigh 300 pounds. I had 3 weight loss surgeries, as I was talking about, and I had a lot of extra skin. I had extra skin under my arms, my thighs, my breasts, and my stomach, especially around my stomach. So I lost a lot of weight from these surgeries and from calorie restriction. And when I did that, I had massive amounts of skin. So I went to a plastic surgeon, had never had plastic surgery before, really was conflicted about it, right? Because it seems like there's a lot of judgment about people who get plastic surgery. Maybe in the past, I'd even judge people about doing things that I thought maybe put them unnecessarily at risk. But truthfully, I always respected someone's choice to do what they wish with their own body. So I never thought I'd have plastic surgery, but the skin, especially around my stomach and my breast, was very, very uncomfortable. So I didn't really see it as just a cosmetic thing. I also saw it as like a comfort thing, a living your life kind of thing. And so I had so much extra skin when I did dieting through calorie restriction, not fasting, not low carb, just straight calorie restriction. And I decided to get the skin removed on my stomach and have a breast reduction, which I gotta tell you, that was a fantastic decision. Don't regret it a bit. Was able to like wear pants that zipped up and jeans that zipped up and buy a bra I still had to buy a bra at Lane Bryant. My family is just blessed that way, I guess you could call it. But you know, having your breast be here and not way down here is very exciting if you have ever nursed a baby. So this was like incredible and wonderful, and fitting into a bra was great. But I didn't get the skin removed on my arms and my thighs because I felt like it was cosmetic, not really just about comfort. Interestingly, years later, when I did low carb and I did fasting, I'm not going to say I have no extra skin. That's not true, but it was less. So as I lost weight with calorie restriction, I had extra skin. When I lost the same weight and got to the same number, which was 195, I had less lose skin in the same places. I've heard people talk about these things and ask if this is true or not true. I've heard some people say they had no skin at all. Not my case. Definitely some skin, but less, definitely less, to where I would not consider having surgery. I didn't before, and now that I have less, why would I consider that? A lot of people say that when you lose weight with low carb and keto and fasting, that you have more autophagy, you have more ability to tighten up that skin. And for me, that was true. I think it's something that people are kind of embarrassed to talk about because we all want to believe that we just have these perfect bodies. Well, I don't. So that's what really happened. And that's the truth about what you can expect. Usually people who do keto, low carb, and fasting in some combination will experience a good amount of skin tightening. People that do low calorie dieting or moderation, from what I have seen in my own experience, don't experience the same amount of skin tightening. So I had really given up, honestly, overcoming my health. I mean, if you lost weight through 3 bariatric surgeries and binge eating rehab and every diet, and you tried for 24 years, it would make sense to give up, right? Like, it's ridiculous to keep trying. But I'm an entrepreneur. I think I'm on my 9th company. And let me tell you what it's like being an entrepreneur. Sometimes you're loaded. You have so much money and you just think that you are a brilliant goddess. Like, you're a genius. You know everything, right? And you succeed. And sometimes you're terrified in the middle of the night because there's $1,000 less than you need to make payroll for your employees who depend on you to take care of themselves and their families. And you realize you are the biggest fake and idiot in your life. Entrepreneurship, can't even say it. Being an entrepreneur will teach you failure and teach you resilience, unlike anything else. And so I think a lot of that training or that thinking came into play with me when it came to weight loss. So I've had, like I said, 9 companies. I'm going to say 3 or 4 of them have been really successful. And the other 5 have just been horrible, terrible failures, right? Like, just awful. Like, at one point I had a cupcake company. It was doing great, but I gained 30 pounds. Was that a success? No, I stopped making freaking cupcakes because I couldn't stop eating them. Okay. So you have to just keep on trying. And that was at the time when the cupcakes were going to be a craze, and I knew it was going to make money, and it was the time of sprinkles. It was wonderful. I shouldn't be talking about cupcakes right now, should I? But anyway, you get the picture. You can gather all this information, but in the end, I went to all these doctors and they told me the answer was to eat more often, to get my carbs in, to have bariatric surgery, to go to rehab, to get weighed every week, to go to Weight Watchers. This was not the answer for me. So you can't decide that anyone has the absolute answer for you. Not even me. I may not have the answer for you, but you're here and you're listening. So you can be honest with yourself and try these things to see if it's the right answer for you. So the first journey that I started on was low carb. I did it because I hadn't really done it that much before, and keto sounded interesting. And I really like the fact that I can eat as much freaking food as I want to. You know what makes me angry? When people tell me to eat less food, and then I'm not full, and I'm thinking about food all the time, and I can't focus even more. I want to eat all the food I want to eat, and I want to like it because I love food. So I think that's really what appealed to me for keto, honestly. Like, that's why I want to try it. That sounds great. Plus, I love steak. So let's eat some steak. I can have butter too. Fantastic. Okay. So I go down this road to try low carb. It's January of 2018. My husband says he's going to do it with me. To be clear, let me paint a picture of my husband. He's probably been no more than 30 pounds overweight in his entire life. Athlete, super hot. Yes, I know. I deserve that. So he decides to go on this journey with me. He and I have both, gained 30 pounds, and we really like it. It's not that hard. I'm not a great cook. Making these things is pretty easy. Let's be honest. He cooks most of the time anyway. We do it. We lose the weight. It's not difficult. But of course, in the back of my mind, and tell me if you're like this, I'm like, I'm gonna gain it back. Like, sure, this is great. I'm really glad I can wear this tight dress, but I'm going to keep these 7 other sizes because I'll be back there soon. Let's not fool ourselves. I'm going to be fat again. Like, that's what's going to happen. And everybody knows it because it's what's always happened for 24 years. It's ridiculous to expect anything else. So we lost weight. We felt fantastic. We cut out all sugars. We cut out sweeteners. Hated every minute of that. But we did it. And suddenly, one day, a couple of months in, I looked at my husband and said, I was only hungry for 5 times today. And he was like, yes. I'm like, are you telling me normal people only get hungry 5 times in one day? And he had to think about it. And he was like, yeah, that sounds about right. And I was so angry. Like, I was so mad about it because I thought, well, of course, this is why skinny people look at fat people, me, the way that they do. The misunderstanding, the misconception they have in their head is just, this person is not that hungry. Stop eating. Like, it's that simple. Just stop eating. I really, in that moment, understood that disgust and that look I had gotten so much in my life. And so I got curious about it. Like, why do I feel this way? What caused me to feel this way? I've never felt this way doing calorie restriction. I've never felt this way working out more. Why do I feel this way? Why didn't bariatric surgery make me feel this way? And so I got really curious about how sugar acts in our body, how insulin responds in our body. What the hell is insulin resistance? Nobody told me what that was. They told me I had it. They told me to take this certain medication. They told me it would make it harder for me to have a baby, but I didn't understand what it was. I really didn't understand how to fix it. They just told me what medicines to take and what surgeries to have. And I'm not blaming doctors. I've met a lot of great doctors who have done their very best with the education they have to do the best that they could. I think that most doctors spend all this money and time into an education because they truly care about people. However, the education that they get on nutrition is usually 4 hours or less in their total education. We go to doctors and ask them to make us healthy, but most of their education has been focused on how to take us from being sick to less sick, how to manage symptoms, how to prescribe medications, how to help with surgeries, how to merely keep us alive. I don't want to just be alive. I would like to be healthy. I would like to look hot. I would like to feel good. I would like to have energy. And honestly, my experience with most doctors is that's not the area they were mostly taught. And that's not the area they've been accustomed to focusing on because we live in a country where most of us are sick and most of us are obese and most of us are on many medications and have diabetes type 2 or have issues, and they're trying to solve cancer and they're trying to solve epilepsy and they're trying to solve all these things. And they really haven't focused a lot of time because they haven't had it on how we can eat a little bit better, how we can stay healthier. So I started to research that for myself. And that's when a friend, Dr. Suzanne Slonim, when she heard what I was telling her, recommended the book by Dr. Jason Fung, The Obesity Code. I read that book. I felt really justified and superior when he talked about low carb because I was doing that. But when he talked about fasting, it just really made me angry. I just thought, this is stupid. And every doctor has told me to eat 8 to 10 times a day. I've been doing that. I don't know what was wrong in my head. I've been doing that and I've been hungry. I've been doing that and I've been getting fatter and struggling with my weight my whole life. So out of anger, I tried it. I didn't eat for 36 hours and I was fine. And then I got really angry and I didn't eat for 11 days, which was ridiculous. And not a smart choice to do. But every day I felt great. I was still alive, which with fasting was shocking to me. I thought I would die if I didn't eat for a couple of days. I felt fantastic, except emotionally, I was pissed off. I was pissed off at the system. I was pissed off at the misinformation I had. I was pissed off at the 24 years I had done damage to my body. And I just started thinking about how I wanted people to have not just Dr. Jason Fung and all the good looking, really perfect people who either A, are doctors and know about fasting, but look like they've certainly never been overweight in their life, or people who tried fasting and like the first day they tried it, it was super easy. And like 2 months in, they were like, I can go for weeks. This is fantastic. This was not my experience. I hated it. I still am not a huge fan of fasting. I'm never like, you know what? It's going to be so fun to fast. No, I would rather eat at all times. I'm always going to be like that because I love to eat. It was a huge part of my life and it still is. But I thought that people needed to hear from somebody who started at 300 pounds at their worst and got to 185 and was like, I am basically petite, right? Like, I understand that a lot of people's starting point is 185, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, maybe your starting point is 500 pounds. Maybe your starting point is, I have a friend who was 135 and always wanted to be 130. And now with fasting, she is. Fasting to me is the great equalizer. We're at a time right now in 2020 where so many people have lost their jobs or experienced a pay cut or had a business that was damaged. And we just aren't all sitting here with tons of money, right? Well, when you look at fasting, to me, this is the one thing that we can do that costs $0 to do, takes less time to implement, and really just is available to anyone in any economic level. And I really am excited about that because we all go through, a lot of us go through difficult times in life financially. And I think that this tool is something that we can lean on when we need to. Even for people that maybe they have 2 jobs and they don't have time to cook a fantastic meal for their family. Maybe they do some fasting and that meal that they cook can last for a couple of meals for the family. There's all kind of things that can be looked at. So I was fortunate enough to partner with Dr. Jason Fung because I don't know, I found like this camaraderie with him because he was angry, right? He was angry that I think the way that I felt that I, for so long, think that I let myself feel ashamed of being fat, ashamed of being unhealthy, ashamed of never succeeding in the things I was supposed to be doing. But a lot of it was I didn't have the information that I needed. Had I had this information 24 years ago, I think I would have taken it. But I have it now. I'm 46. I got it when I was, 43. And I partnered with Dr. Jason Fung to write a book with he and Megan Ramos. And Megan Ramos is a really interesting person because she is a researcher who has treated people with fasting for, like 20 years now, thousands of people. And so she's the only person I've ever met that could answer every question I threw her way about fasting. Well, why do I go crazy when I fast? What about my cycle during fasting? Why should I take magnesium or should I soak in the tub? And so I have my book here, Life in the Fasting Lane. It is a New York Times bestseller. You can call me a New York Times bestselling author. It's okay, I'll let you. But I'm an author and this is my 4th book and it's my first New York Times bestseller, but it's written by the 3 of us, a doctor, a researcher, and a regular person. Because when I hear about things that are going to change my weight, yes, I want the medical, yes, I want the research and the facts and the answers. But what I really want is probably a really funny best friend who will just tell me the laziest I can be to do something and if it will really work. And so in this book, I wanted to talk to people about this whole thing about trying to fast more than you need to. Like, I think it's really ridiculous. And yes, this is a person who fasted for 11 days. And I do think that extended fasting is something to explore, especially when you're dealing with major health issues. However, I think everybody should step into fasting as they're building a muscle. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not for you. There's only one way to find out. Skip a snack and then skip a meal. Maybe you'll love it. Maybe you'll be like a fasting champion and reach your goals in 2 weeks. Maybe it'll be terrible and you'll absolutely hate it. But nobody calls their doctor up when they have an extra piece of cake. I don't think you need to call your doctor up when you skip a snack. All right? It's ridiculous. If you want to skip a snack, skip a snack. If you want to not have breakfast one day, I also don't think you need to call your doctor. Now, you're going to not eat for a whole day? All right. I can see how you're going to call your doctor. But I think that whole double standard of sometimes we have 6 meals on vacation in a day and we don't call the doctor about that and nobody freaks out. But then the next day we have a steak and that's the only meal we have that day and people freak out. It's kind of ridiculous. So I'm Eve Mayer. You can check me out at fastinglane.com. And if you have any questions or thoughts, or you just want to tell me about your goals in your life and how you achieved them, what worked for you, what your story is, I'd love to hear it.